Okay, my interpretation was she did not realize the police were called, so she was wondering who had called, knowing that she was not the one that had called.
All right, which seems to suggest that she wasn't going to call the police.
And I apologize, Judge, I didn't print the PSI, but I seem to recollect there was a line in there that says she intended to report it, and if we need to call her back.
No, I mean, that's not, I mean, if you want to recall her, you can, but what I read in the PSI report.
Enjoy the video, hit the like button.
All right, the defendant entered a plea of no contest on March 3rd, 2022 to the offense of injury to a child. According to the plea bargaining agreement, punishment is to be assessed at a cap of 5 years. There's a $1,500 fine. State remains silent, and the state is taking in consideration terroristic threat, family household. There's an affirmative finding of family violence, and of course, the no contact order, and then the no harmful or injurious contact. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report, state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Any objections to the PSI report, state?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
No, Judge.
All right, the state is silent. So defense, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense calls Melissa Mir to the stand.
All right, off the record for a moment. Mr. Martinez, your client, Mr. Clark, is here. So I'm going to send Mr. Clark to breakout room number 1.
Yes, Judge.
And Mr. Martinez, let me find you on the Zoom. I'll send you to breakout room number 1. And I'm sorry, what is your witness's name, please?
Melissa Mir.
Is there a Melissa Mir here?
That'll be me, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
All right, you could lower your hand. If you could state your name for the record and please spell it.
My name is Melissa Lynn Mir. That's Melissa Lynnmer.
All right, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Mir. How are you today?
Make sure you use the microphone.
Hello, ma'am.
Good morning. I have some questions with regard to your son's case. Are you familiar with Mark Cram?
Yes, ma'am. That is my adult son of 33 years of age.
Okay. And Ms. Mir, just for preliminary purposes, where is it that you reside?
I reside at 343 Myrick Boulevard, San Antonio, Texas, 78221.
How long have you been a resident of San Antonio?
All my life.
And do you have any other children?
Yes, I do. I have 3 adult children and 1 minor son.
Okay, and where do they live?
My minor son lives with me, and my 2 other adult sons have their own families besides Mark.
Are they in San Antonio?
Yes, no, one's in Post and the other one's in San Antonio.
Okay. Now, with regard to Mark's case, you understand the purpose of today's hearing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you mentioned that you do live here in San Antonio. Was Mark living with you at the time that this happened, or was he living somewhere else?
Yes, Mark and Mercedes were both living here with the children. They were basically evicted from their home, and then they moved with me. They had Ronan, which is their youngest son. He was about 4 months of age at that time. And then I don't remember the exact time of this incident that happened. But immediately afterwards, Mercedes left with the kids, and Mark turned himself into the police department in San Antonio.
Now, who is Mercedes?
Mercedes, that is his, well, I don't know if they consider it common law, but they have a child together and they raised her oldest son together.
Now, do you currently work right now, Ms. Mir?
No, ma'am, I've been unemployed since the beginning of the pandemic.
And what was it that you did before the pandemic kind of?
I worked consecutively for 23 years for the Baptist Health System. I was a account. I built the accounts for the logins, basically.
Okay, so some form of technology.
Yes, ma'am. I went to technical school for that.
Now, how about Mark? Was Mark employed when this offense occurred?
Yes, at that time he was the only one that had employment, and
What kind of work did he do?
he went to school in Arizona for a whole year to learn how to work on motorcycles, and he graduated, came back here, and then that's when they ended up having their youngest son, Ronan.
Okay.
But
Now,
yes, pardon me.
okay, so what's happening right now is we seem to be going back and forth talking over one another, but I want you to kind of just understand. There is a court reporter in court today and she's typing out everything that I say and everything that you say. So in order for her to get everything down accurately, it's important for you to wait until I finish my question before responding. And similarly, I'll wait until you respond before I start my next question, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So with regard to Mark's work history, he was working for a mechanic shop in the San Antonio area, is that correct?
Yes, it was a motorcycle shop.
Okay, and how many hours was he working?
40 hours a week.
And was he basically providing for you and his family?
Yes, he was.
Do you know if Mark had any sort of student loans that he owes to that school in Arizona?
Not that I'm aware of.
Now, as far as, the kids in school, do they ever have any issues getting to class on time or going to, having attendance issues?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Have you known the kids to ever have attendance issues at school? And I guess the oldest, because the youngest isn't school age yet, but the oldest child, any issues going to school or anything like that that you know of?
Well, the only issue I know of was the COVID. He was learning from home.
Okay, now, as far as this case is concerned, obviously, something very terrible occurred, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we are here asking the court to consider, a lenient sentence with regard to the facts of this case. Particularly, we're asking the court to consider probation. Do you know whether Mark would have any issue reporting to a probation officer if this court were to deem that an appropriate sentence in this case?
I don't believe so, ma'am. I really don't. I think he's fully committed to turning this whole bad, horrible situation around and going on with his life and hopefully eventually their family.
Okay. Would you be able to ensure that he reports on a monthly basis to a probation officer?
I would certainly, definitely do that, yes.
Okay. Are you willing to provide a place for Mark to live in the event that this is an appropriate sentence deemed by the court?
Yes, Mark always has a place here. All my children do.
Now, with regard to abiding by counseling, did Mark ever have any sort of counseling in the past that you're aware of?
Concerning this incident or before?
Any sort of counseling?
Well, when I got divorced, when my children were young, they had counseling, family counseling for about 6 months. And then most recently from this incident, he had counseling through Compadre. It's a parenting program for men. He completed his course and they gave him the certificate and all that. So that's the only counseling I know of.
Okay. To your knowledge, was he compliant with that attendance and engaged in the counseling program that was offered?
Yes.
All right. Was it your opinion that he showed a willingness to succeed in that counseling?
Yes, he always showed up on time. Sometimes he was the only one in his class.
As far as his parenting, because that is the basis of this case, what sort of parent do you think Mark is capable of being?
I think Mark is a very good father. That incident that happened, that was so many different things going on at that time. I don't know if you want me to elaborate, but the stress levels were so bad for everybody. Mercedes had postpartum. I didn't have a job. We were all basically struggling with different things. And then they had a little infant. I mean, it just was a horrible, anxiety-filled time. But I do believe that Mark is a very good father. Aside from that, he raised Logan since Logan was a little younger than 2, taught him how to go potty. I mean, fed him, I believe he is a good father, and I believe that he is capable of leading a good, healthy life.
And just so this court's aware, the victim in this case is not Mark's biological child, is that correct?
No, he isn't. He's Mercedes from a prior relationship when she was younger.
But Mark has raised him as his own child?
Yes, since it was just before his 2nd birthday, they started dating, and that's when Mark started interacting with him. I mean, they'd go to the park, they do everything together. So.
I'll pass the witness.
State?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Call your next witness.
The defense calls Mercedes Medina to the stand.
All right, is there a Mercedes Medina here? Mercedes Medina.
Judge, I think she may have logged into Zoom because Marina was mentioned that she wanted to do a victim impact.
Yeah, Judge, she told me she just parked and she was going to log in on Zoom, and I sent her the link and she said she hasn't gotten it yet. So I'm trying to get her on.
All right.
So
Your Honor,
Yes.
I just wanted to say, Mercedes, the baby was sick today and she had to take the baby to the doctor. That's all.
All right, thank you. So what we'll do is we'll wait for her to. All right, defense, you had called Miss Mercedes Medina as a witness, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand if you can state your name for the record, please.
My name is Mercedes Medina.
All right, defense.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Mercedes. I don't know if you recall visiting with me about a month ago when you contacted our office regarding Mark Crane's case. Does that sound about right?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that? I have a little bit of difficulty hearing.
Sure. Do you remember calling our office about a month ago to talk about Mark's case with us?
Yes.
Okay. And that's probably the last time we did talk about his case. Is that right?
Yes.
However, when we did speak, you had mentioned that you were interested in testifying as a character witness at his sentencing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you please tell this court how you know Mark Crane?
Well, I know Mark Cram because he's the father of one of my children, as well as we've been in an intimate relationship. I had met him previously in high school, just in passing. So we have quite a bit of history together.
Okay. And is it your son who is the listed victim in this particular criminal case?
Yes, Logan Favea is my son.
Okay. And when this happened, were you living with Mark Crane?
We were.
And when this event occurred, did you immediately leave with the kids to another location?
I'm so sorry. Can you please repeat?
That's okay. Did you leave Mark when this event occurred?
I did.
Okay.
Out of, just shock, I guess. I was going through a lot.
Sure. And you wanted to protect your children, correct?
Of course. That's what any mother would do. It was just a response, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. Now, did you receive any counseling or talk to any sort of victim coordinators about this case?
Yes, I have. I was actually, I was seen by a counselor from the family-based services by their request. And so I did speak to a counselor myself.
Okay, and did they talk to you about victims of domestic violence and stuff like that?
They did, yes.
And with all the counseling you received from them, is it still your intention to come to court and testify as a character witness for Mark's case?
It is.
Now, what is it that you would like to see happen in this case as far as his sentencing is concerned?
I've had a lot of time to think about that question. And I've had a lot of time to watch my children, how they have experienced this situation. And I hope that the court will see everything that he's doing and has done as a show of good faith, that he is capable of getting himself together. I'm hoping that he receives leniency by the judge because he has no, previous record. I'm also hoping that from the outcome today, there will be room for us as a family to grow when the time comes.
Okay, now you say that when the time comes, currently you have not contacted Mark, is that correct?
That is correct. I haven't spoken to him since the day of the incident, and just thinking back to that moment, all the time that I've spent between then and now, the different, advice that my family has given me, and even the words of my son, who is, the one involved. He wants to see also, when the time comes, essentially his father, who he knows him as, return back to his life. And that way his little brother also doesn't miss out on his father.
Okay. Now, if this court were to consider probation as an appropriate sentence, are you here to tell the court that he's immediately going to move back in with you and resume a family or household situation? Or are you not expecting him to move in and maybe y'all have time to kind of discuss what your future entails?
I have every intention of doing everything necessary to make sure that he stays on the right track. And so if that means that he has to spend some more time away from us to make sure he's meeting his probationary needs, is what I expect of myself and of him as well. If that, requires additional counseling, individual, inter-family, us together as a couple, whatever it's going to take. And that's why I say when the time comes, because I know this is still in the beginning of this process for all of us. We still have a lot of time to go and more work to put in, but I know we're all as a family capable of moving forward this way, the right way.
I'll pass the witness.
State.
No questions.
All right, defense, any other witnesses?
Judge, if I can have a moment to see if my client would like to put evidence on in the form of testimony. Mark, this is your sentencing hearing and you have an opportunity to talk to the court if you want to explain what it is that you're seeking in the form of punishment for this offense. Do you want to testify, or are you satisfied with the character witnesses that have taken the stand on your behalf?
I'm satisfied with the testimony. I just had a few questions because the TAP evaluation stated that I would possibly get no harmful contact with Logan, as well as no harmful contact with Mercedes and Ronan.
Okay, and so first what we'll do is we'll close up the argument and then have judge make a decision, and then we can address whatever the TAP eval suggests or recommends at that time.
All right, the court will hear argument then. State.
Judge, for the agreement, state is remaining silent.
All right, defense.
Yes, Your Honor, you just heard from two character witnesses on Mr. Cram's behalf. As you know, this is a very serious charge, with some very, scary facts and circumstances. There was a young child who, did receive, some significant discipline in the form of corporal punishment here, which by no means is something that, we're here to propose, was justified. However, we do have the two most important women in his life come forward, and one of them has not had any contact with him since this offense occurred and has testified that she acknowledges through time and conversations with her family and counselors that she believes that this was just a one-time incident, and she's interested in furthering her family.
But has she read I know she hasn't read the PSI report, but I've read the PSI report and nobody objected to it. And in the PSI report, the child is saying this is not the first time this has happened.
Oh, Judge, I apologize. You are correct. There was an instance listed in that PSI where the child had mentioned, I think there was boot taken to the rib or something
Yes,
of that nature.
that the defendant kicked him.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. I did forget that after reading it this morning. And so after, time and counseling, Ms. Medina is willing to work on this family unit. She is obviously a woman who can protect her children and is interested in protecting the safety of her children. She left him when it occurred. She did not know about the boot to the rib until after the fact. I think was my understanding of the PSI. And,
But I read in the PSI report that Miss Medina was upset that the police were called.
okay, my interpretation was she did not realize the police were called, so she was wondering who had called, knowing that she was not the one that had called.
All right, which seems to suggest that she wasn't going to call the police.
And I apologize, Judge, I didn't print the PSI, but I seem to recollect there was a line in there that says she intended to report it, and if we need to call her back.
No, that's not, if you want to recall it, you can, but what I read in the PSI report was that she was upset because somebody else called the police.
Okay, let me pull that PSI up.
And that's on page 7. At the top, it says contact with the victim's mother was made via telephone. Miss Medina was upset and wanted to know who called the police. Miss Medina was asked if she knew where the victim was, and she stated that her cousin Jessica had him. She was then asked if she had a relationship with her mother, and she stated that she had not spoken to her for over 2 years because she used methamphetamine. Miss Medina was asked if she had seen any injuries to her son, and she stated that she saw an injury to his ear. And the court has reviewed the stipulations, and when I viewed the stipulated evidence, there are injuries that the mother would have seen, because if the child was hit with a power strip cord, and there's injuries on his stomach, on his upper arm, on his back. And is Child Protective Services involved in this case?
They were, Your Honor. I think the investigation may be closed at this point.
Okay. All right. Defense, you may continue your argument.
I apologize, Judge.
No problem.
And so whether this court deems maybe probation is appropriate here, he doesn't necessarily have to return to the family. He has a place with his mother who would supervise, his reporting on a monthly basis and any counseling that this court deems, necessary. He is remorseful for what occurred, and is asking this court to recognize that, a mistake was made. He took responsibility for it. He's entered that plea. He's not interested in wasting the court's time or resources in contesting the charges or the allegations. He did enroll in compadre to compadre counseling and is, willing to participate in any other sort of counseling that's ordered as part of probation. Alternatively, if this court deems that incarceration is appropriate here,
we're asking the court to consider the minimum amount of time possible.
Right. Court will deny your application. The court is finding you guilty. The court will sentence you to 5 years in the prison, give you credit for any time served, a $1,500 fine, time and money to run concurrent. There's an affirmative finding of family violence. There's to be no contact with Logan Favela, Favella. No harm or injurious contact with Ronan Crown, Mercedes Medina. Credit for any time served, taking consideration county court cause number 662637.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to show you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? Mr. Crown, could you unmute? Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you electronically sign it and did you understand it? Did you understand that document, Mr. Crown?
I'm sorry.
Did you review that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because there's an affirmative finding of family violence, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. And also because it is a felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, good luck to you, Mr. Cran.
You don't have to draw the record.
Just one moment.
Judge, the victim wanted to do,
14G can go back, Ms. Ferguson, or did you need to speak with him?
I know, Judge, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Judge, the victim wanted to do victim impact statement afterwards with Mr. Cram.
All right, Ms. Ferguson, can you bring Mr. Cram back? And this is, my understanding, this is victim impact. This is not supposed to be for visitation. So if she wants to just have a visitation with Mr. Cram, she needs to do that at the jail.
Yeah, she wants to do a victim impact statement since there's a protective order, so she isn't able to talk to him.
All right, but again, Ms. Medina, if this is going to be for you to have a visitation with him, then you need to do that on your own time. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
All right, go forward with, you can start your impact statement.
There has been a lot of time that has passed between when everything happened and now. I have watched my son become more aware of himself and more aware of the world. And I've had to watch him go through a tremendous amount in the last 2 years. He has shared with me how much he has hurt, and he had shared with me how much he has grown and how much he has come to understand. His words to me are, I love him and I forgive him, and I hope that one day we can be a family again. And every day he tells his little brother how much of a good man he remembers him to be.
All right, Ms. Medina, you probably need to take care of the infant that's in the vehicle with you who's crying. So thank you. Mr. Cram can go back, Norma. Thank you, Ms. Medina.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.